Very good. So we saw how kina, envy, is a very bad attribute. It's something which nearly no one can escape from. It's something which nearly everybody has. It can be used primarily to harm a person and the others he interacts with. It is possible that it can work for one's benefit and the others that he's in contact with as well. The author perhaps only grazed that last manifestation of, which we'll see more about later, but he did mention the idea of kinas sofrim marbe hochma, that the envy, let's say the competition that exists between Torah scholars, that can be used to increase Torah study. But in general, people have envy fuel their desire to have as much or more of the material types of benefits that other people have, and that can drive a person to very, very extreme, very, very great extremes. And the author here brought the story of a person who was envious and coveted his neighbor's wife, and as a result of that came to actually transgress all of the 10 commandments in the Torah. The person has to become very careful about envy and becoming consumed with envy that can cause a person to want to covet things that that belong to other people, and as a result of that come to very serious transgressions. This is more or less just a general review of what we saw on Thursday. So let's continue now where we left off on Kuf Ches, second paragraph. Hakina, hiba migrius hanefesh. Envy comes from the degraded state of the soul. Imu mekane beyofyo shel adam, o begvurasoi, o beoshro. If a person is envious of another person's good looks, or his strength, or his wealth, harienu chofetz b'mei shogazar alav v'boris barach. He is not happy. What he's expressing is displeasure with what God gave him in terms of his pleasure, in terms of his portion of, let's say, physical beauty, or of strength, or of wealth. V'zedome le'eved sheyesh lo tulunos al ma'aseh odonov, ve'enu misratze be'inyan odonov, ein ze eved ne'eman. It would be like a servant who has nothing but complaints about the way his master runs his affairs and treats his servants. Now, assuming that it's a benevolent master, then who is this servant to complain about what he gets or what he doesn't get, or about the way his master runs his affairs or treats his servants? And therefore, a person who is envious of other people, what other people have, with the feeling that he himself is lacking them, that's tantamount to making a claim against God. Right? He has what he has because God wants him to have what he has. And I have what I have, or I don't have what I don't have because God has so decided. So if I have feelings of envy in my heart, why does he have what I don't have? The complaint is really not so much against that other person, it's a complaint against God. Right? He might say that that person seems to be has something which I think I would like. I'm more than happy that that person has what he has, and I wouldn't want or harbor any feelings that that person shouldn't have what he has. Let him have it and let him enjoy it. But it seems like a good thing, and I'd also like to have it. Why don't I have it? Well, maybe I'm not meritorious of it. But if it seems to me like it's a good thing, it's a benevolent thing, if it's something, all the more so, if the person truly feels it's something that can help him or her serve Hashem better, then there's every reason why he should be able to pray for that or make reasonable effort to try and attain it. But not out of a feeling of envy, because he has it, I also want it. Why does he have it and I don't? Rather, he has it, which means it's something that's attainable, and if it really seems that it's something good, and it's something good for me, all the more so if the person feels like he can use that for the service of Hashem, that he's allowed to do. He's allowed to try and procure his interest in that respect. It's the envy which is the problem. The consuming type of envy which is a problem. If we attribute having it or the lack thereof to mazel, then what we're saying is that also comes from Hashem. Hashem has decided through the venue of mazel that this person should have such and such a degree of bounty, and the other person should have more or should have less. And if he wants to improve his condition, but it's a function of mazel, it could be that there's very little he can do about that. However, it doesn't mean, again, that if it's something which is good, and it's good for him, and it's something which he truly intends to use for the service of Hashem, that he shouldn't try to procure it. He's allowed to. It could be that he won't be able to do it, in which case he should accept that and not harbor any bad feelings against his friend, not be devouring himself out of envy, and not to have this as a source of complaint against Hashem. More so, you shouldn't complain against God. He's going back to the analogy of the servant complaining against the master. That's certainly unacceptable, all the more so if a person were to complain against God. Why does he have and I don't? You can't do that. Minakina tova machlokes. As a result of envy, there will also arise machlokes, argumentation. Like we find by Korach, who ultimately had jealousy because of he was envious of the position that was given to Elitzaphan, and he thought that he was deserving of this position. And as a result of this, he ended up making an argument against Moshe and Aaron, and caused the whole divisive machlokes between his community and that of Moshe. Mitoch kach ne'evadhu v'siyaso. As a result of this, he and all of his community, his followers, were all destroyed. And like Pirkei Avos say, that there are three things which take a person out of this world, one of which is kina. Yeah? Jealousy, envy gnaws away at a person until it ultimately destroys him and takes him out of this world. And that's what happened to Korach. Afilu yon keshadaim. And this disease of envy, destructive envy, this disease of destructive envy, destructive devouring envy, it affected even the infants. The children of Korach and his followers were devoured as a result of this. And envy is like a sickness in a person. It eats away at a person and makes him sick at heart. It causes disease. It was said by a wise man to his son, guard yourself from envy. It's something which is apparent on you. Your face changes because of the evil in your heart. And why should the enemy who you envy be glorified and gratified over your envy of him? So it doesn't make sense. If you envy another person, number one, you're going to be bringing into yourself, incorporating within yourself, a gnawing self-destructive disease, which is going to harm you. Why? Because you're perturbed by it, you're disturbed by it, you're upset by it. It's going to raise your blood pressure, it's going to be preoccupying your thoughts, it's going to ultimately debilitating. You're not going to be able to make any progress because you're always looking to see how the other person's progressing. That's the first thing. The second thing, it wouldn't behoove you to be envious of another person, because what are you going to be doing? You're going to be playing into his hands. You envy him, and part of envying him is not wanting to own up that he's got more than you, but the envy is going to be apparent on your face and your behavior towards him. He's going to perceive that you envy, and going to be what's what I'm looking for? Victorious. What? Victorious? Yes, victorious or vindicated. Vindicated of his superiority because of your expression of jealousy of him. So it doesn't behoove you for practical reasons. It's going to harm you, and it's only going to vilify you in the end, in the eyes of the person that you're envying. So what do you need it for? You want what he has? So want it because, like I said before, you think it's a good thing and it's good for you and you can use it to Hashem. But not to want it just because he's got it. If he's got it, fine. Gesundheit, let him have it. Such and such a thing exists. I think it can benefit me. And I think I can use it for the service of Hashem. So I'm going to go about trying to use normal means to attain it. Yeah? Because I think it's good for me. And not because he's got it. And therefore, I'll be level-headed about it. Reasonable about it, rational about it. If I make a normal amount of effort to try and attain it, and I attain it, fine. If not, so it's a sign it's not meant for me, not right now. There's nothing to get upset about. But it's not about that he's got it, he's got it, he's got it. Is it good? Is it good for me? Can I use it for the service of Hashem? If the answer is yes on all those accounts, go for it. But you won't be upset when you don't get it, because you don't understand. It's not from Hashem right now. Hamekane choimes nafsho. A person who is envious, he hates his own soul. Kumis abel tamid, because he's constantly going to be, what's the word? Kind of like mourning over his loss, his lack. V'sichlo mischaser mirov kina hatmuna bekirbo, and his intelligence is dissipated because of this envy he's got in his heart. Ve'in libo panui lilmoid l'spalel b'kavana v'lasois masim tovim, and his heart is not freed and liberated to pray with intention and to do good deeds, because he's consumed by this debilitating envy. And all types of people, they enjoy the taste of their food, aside from the person who's envious. Because he won't feel any pleasure in his food until what's good that his friend has, which he doesn't has been removed. He's sitting there eating, thinking about what he's got, and I don't have it. How am I going to get away from it? How am I going to make sure that I get it and he doesn't have it? Are you enjoying your lasagna? What? What was it? Oh, lasagna. Yeah, thanks. Doesn't even know what he's eating. He doesn't recognize the taste of it. He's just consumed with the taste of revenge. Yeah. Kol adam motze tam orev b'ma'acholo hutz min makane she'eno toyem tam tov b'ma'acholo ad she'tosir atov b'chaveroi v'chol sino yesh tikva she'im yisno chavero avur shegozol mimeno tosir sino כשיושיב לו אויסוי דבר. כן כל שנאה התלויה בדבר. אחר שיסכן הדבר ההוא, תבטל השנאה. חוץ מן השנאה מחמס הקנאה. He says that the jealousy is worse than other things as well. He says, l'chol sinah yesh tikva, for any type of, let's say, animosity that there might exist between people, there is some hope of resolving this animosity. Why? Because if, for example, the animosity resulted from a person stealing from another, he might return the stolen object and then rectify the hatred. And the same thing goes with hatred that comes about through any types of physical means, on account of some physical means. There might be some way of rectifying, right, what's gone wrong in order to restore peace. But hatred that comes about through envy, that can never be rectified. Why? Because it's not something material. It's something immaterial. It's a feeling which might be based on things which are material, but the sensation itself is not material. And therefore, he's always going to have this hatred. The only way of doing away with the hatred resulting from envy is to do away with the envy itself. So let's say you have two people competing for something. And they're both more or less equally talented. And it seems to be going better for one guy more than the other, for whatever reason. So, Mr. Second Place gets all bent out of shape, and his feathers get ruffled. And as a result of this, he starts feeling feelings of envy and competition, and even a certain degree of hatred towards the guy in first place. Right? How likely is it, now that this is his response to being in second place, that he's ever going to get to first place? Very unlikely. Why? Because he's not operating in his prime when he's consumed by this. And like I said, he's really not looking at the objective. He's looking at the competitor. So he's not going to be able to perform properly. In addition to that, he's probably going to be rubbing off the wrong way on the powers that be, because he's fuming with jealousy. So he's much less likely to impress the people he needs to impress to get the position that he's competing for. So if he gets all huffy and puffy about it at this point, so he's probably more likely than not burying himself and eliminating any possibility he might have for promotion. It's very difficult, but at that point he should say, even if it seems to me that I'm running in second place, Who knows? The game's not over until it's over, number one. And number two, right, I have to try my best because I want to be my best, not because I want to be better than him. And if after being my best, I'm not as good as him, so he's really the one who's more deserving of the job. You gotta cut a spade, right? We both want the job. But clearly, the employer wants the best guy for the job. And if I've tried my best and he's done better, so he's better. I can't blame anybody for his being better. So I'll get another job. I'll try and make myself better. You know? Well, what can I do? If the person gets it through unfair means, that's a different story. Or if he's convinced that I'm really better at this, but for whatever reason, he's gotten the better of me, but he did so through better means, or he, in some way or the other, made a more favorable impression on the employer, or for whatever reason the employer finds more favor in this person than the other, even if he might be more qualified, that's also part of the game. But the point is just this. If I'm preoccupied with trying to be better than him, I'm probably minimizing my chances of getting what I want. I would be much better off trying to be the best I can be, just to be the best that I can be. If I'm trying to be the best I can be, I'm going to be much more natural in what I'm doing, much more relaxed and at ease, and much more likely to succeed and make a favorable impression. And if after all that I don't, so I've tried my best, I've done the right thing. May the best man win. Right? As long as it's me. No, right? May the best man win. Right? If it's the best man, so let him win. And if he wins, I'm not the best man. So what? So I'm not the best man. He's also not the best man. Between the two of us, he might have won, and he might be the best man among the two of us, but they're better than him as well. So he's better than me. If that makes me irate, there are others who are better than him. I have to be the best. He's not the best. There are others who are also better. What can you do? You're just much more healthy if you think about it in those terms. Right? Not wanting what he's got because he's got it, but wanting it because I think it's good for me. Like I said before, it's good for me. It's good for me, and I can use it for the service of Hashem. And not trying to compete with other people to beat them, but to compete in order to be the best I can be. So this is going to enable a person to keep his cool in all these types of situations. And if you don't do it that way, you're basically destroying yourself. And you don't want to do that. So why do it? So I think we're up to the top of Kuftes. Omar ha'chacham livno. It was furthermore said by a wise man to his son, Al tikane ba'achicha. Don't be envious of your brother. Al asher yeshlo, on account of what he has. Ki hu gina'am b'chayov. V'ata tisba da'ago v'tzar. Because he'll enjoy life, and you'll end up being satiated with worry and with suffering. So what's the point of being jealous? If you're jealous of him, is it going to take it away from him? No, unless you do something devious and you don't want to be wicked. So he's going to enjoy what he's got and you want, and you're going to eat yourself over it. What value is there of that? He's going to enjoy what he's got, and you're going to suffer on account of it. What's the point of that? Let him enjoy what he's got, and you try enjoying what you've got. Furthermore, said by a wise man, Lo nivra hamekane ve'choimed ela lechas. The whole purpose, what it means is, ultimately, what envy is going to do is it's going to bring a person to anger. And anger is certainly a harmful thing. The pious of early generations would pray, that we should not have jealousy over others, nor should jealousy of others be aroused against us. Why would they pray regarding other people about this attribute more than other attributes? That others should not be jealous of us, should be envious of us. What was about that? Alakacha inyan. This seems to be the explanation. Ki harbe b'nei adam gormim sheyiskanu behem v'yichmedu oisam. There are many people who actually arouse the jealousies of others in them, against them. Therefore they would pray regarding others. Because maybe they, meaning the ones who are praying, are doing something unwittingly, without knowing, that's causing others to be jealous of them. The Torah said, before the blind you shall not put a stumbling block. So it's interesting, it's kind of saying they prayed that others shouldn't be jealous of them because they might be doing something to make others jealous. That's what he seems to be saying. And if that's the case, it's a little bit difficult to understand. Rather than praying that others shouldn't be jealous, pray that I should be prevented from doing things which would make other people jealous.
But sometimes you can make people jealous, but it's not your fault. It's like is that your day-to-day life, and they're so unhappy with their lot, they just look at you. Yeah,
that's true. So in that case,
you haven't done anything intentionally.
Yeah, like
you've not gone and bought yourself a flashy car and gone and put it in their face.
Yeah.
And look at me.
Yeah. So I think that what's being discussed here would rightly apply to the scenario that you're talking about. But the wording of the author perhaps is what he means, what you're saying, but the wording of it is a bit misleading, because he's saying maybe I'm doing something to arouse jealousy in them. So take the jealousy away from them. So my response is, well, if that's the case, rather pray that I not do anything which would arouse jealousy in them. Unless what he means is, as you're explaining, which is they certainly didn't try to do anything to arouse jealousy. And if they were of doing anything mistakenly, they would stop. So what's left? Something that they're simply not aware of. In which case, the only recourse left would be, right, to take the jealousy away from them. What's wrong with their being jealous? Like I said earlier, in the advice of the father to the son, don't be jealous of him because he's going to enjoy what he's got anyway, and you're only going to destroy yourself. I was thinking, as I said that, that's not necessarily true. A person could, as a result of envy, have ein hara, an evil eye, against another person, and there are sources in Judaism which indicate that the evil eye can have a tangible detrimental effect on other people, in which case, a person could say, well, if I have enough envy, enough bad thoughts about that person, I will actually be able to diminish what he has or his enjoyment of it. But here he doesn't seem to be saying that, tack. He seems to be saying, no, the concern is I don't want to be a reason why these people are feeling feelings of jealousy or envy, because that's causing them to transgress. Lifnei iver. For this reason, he says, it's advisable that a person should not wear clothing which is too nice, or too, flashy, or lavish, expensive. Why? Because he's bound to arouse the jealousy, at least in some people who see him. Lohu v'lo ishtoi v'lo banav. Not him, not his wife, not his children. The same thing with food or other matters. He shouldn't display an overabundance, either qualitatively or quantitatively, in the things that he has, because it can arouse jealousy in other people. So that people should not be jealous of him. Again, he doesn't seem to be emphasizing the idea that it can bring about ein hara, which could boomerang against back to the person and harm him, but simply even without that, just the idea of doing things which is going to arouse other people to feelings of envy.
But that's then all into the standards of your society. So if you live in a fancy neighborhood and everyone drives luxurious cars and stuff like that, then does it just change the scale to you don't want to get something even more flashy than everyone else?
Yeah, I guess you're right. You're making a very important qualification that it's going to be relative to the person's general surroundings. How general is, I'm not sure, because if you have a neighborhood which is pretty well integrated with, let's say, other neighborhoods, and they meet each other, at the supermarket or at the Jewish community center or something like this, and the wealthy people in town have a certain standard which is significantly different than the others, since they intermingle with one another, it might be a good idea even for the wealthier group to be more modest in their display of their wealth in consideration of the others. But in general, yes, it's going to be a function of the person's surroundings.
What if you have something and you use it for the right case? Like you have a big house and you use it for to hold Shirei Torah and to bring guests, or you have a car and you give people lifts. Would that then take away the, I don't know if maybe it's the ayin hara or the jealousy, or it would sort of justify the person having it?
Yeah.
I know someone who's got a very, very big house and he holds Shirei Torah there almost every week.
He holds what? What is it? Shirei Torah?
Yeah. So it's like he's using what he's got.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very important point as well. I mean, what he's saying here, in general, the spirit should be that even a person can afford, let's say, large, lavish things on a standard which is higher than most other people. Even though he can afford that, he shouldn't. He should refrain from doing that because it can arouse jealousy in other people. On the other hand, there might be considerations why he needs to have these things even though other people don't. It might be for business reasons, it might be for social reasons, it might be for reasons of position or stature, and if, let's say, a person has to have these things or justifies having them for whatever reason, the more he uses them, for mitzvot, the better. Number one, it enables other people to benefit from them because they're able to come into the house for the Shirei Torah, for example, or he offers people a lift, and so he's benefiting them as well. And number two, it gives people the feeling that he's not doing it because he wants to laud it over everybody else. The proof is he's constantly sharing with everybody else. So that would definitely mitigate what we're talking about. That being the case, there still is at least one consideration in the constellation of considerations would be the fact that it could arouse jealousy in other people.
You might argue in that sort of situation, if someone's that wealthy, they wanted to do that, they might channel that wealth towards a communal institution elsewhere, and so that others, so it doesn't create like a you're in my home and I'm open.
I know, but the person I'm talking about, he's doing it for people who will not go to the shul if the rabbi's speaking there. So the only way to bring them closer is to give them a different surrounding.
Yeah.
So that's like sometimes he runs from one to the other on Shabbat, and I say, why don't you do it in the shul? And he said, because they won't come. So that's why. That's the person I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, you're raising a very interesting point, and this case might be an exception.
It's a particular person I'm thinking about.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I mean,
because it's dealing with people who aren't operating within the.
Yeah.
If that's.
It reminds me of I heard not too long ago from somebody that his I think it must have been his grandfather. Pre-World War II, somewhere in Poland, bought a car, an automobile, which was very uncommon in those years, in Poland, or at least in the area where he was. And I think if I remember correctly, he said he did it because he delivered milk, and it could help him deliver the milk more easily and more effectively. But he was very careful to use the car in every opportunity to give people a lift and take people to shul and take them all over the place. So he used it but he really made this car available to the community. Now, since he was so busy, not just working but using the car all the time to help so many people, this person's son was with him a lot of the time in the car. And he never learned to drive, but he was in a car that was being driven, as a child. So at some point World War II came around and he was enlisted, and I don't know, he was taken to the front lines or something, and all of a sudden there was a bombing. I don't know exactly what happened. And they needed a driver to drive a truck. So I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the details, but in any case, there were a bunch of these, frightened Jews, and I don't know, the Nazis were close at hand or whatever. And nobody, of course, knew how to drive a car. They were just a bunch of poor, just a bunch of poor Polish Jews. And this man's son, who was, I guess in enlistment age, remembered as a child being driven around in his father's car, so he said, I know how to drive. So they took him, and he didn't know how to drive, but he more or less figured out how to drive this truck. And this truck, with a convoy, I guess, of other vehicles, were able to escape the Nazi takeover of Poland. And as a result of that, this person was saved. He came to America, and the person who I met, the grandson, the son of the driver, the son of the milk deliverer, right, was alive and became part of a wealthy family as a result of this. And he told this story, in a very touching way, and it was, he was basically saved because his grandfather was very benevolent and magnanimous about the Cadillac or the car that he bought, at the time. Because he shared it with the community, his son was with him all the time when he was driving, and this son became a driver in the army, which saved him, and this person, as a result of that. Yeah. So yes, certainly when a person, is privy to these types of things, it would certainly behoove him to share it as much as possible with other people. Only good things can come out of that. However, a person who God has bestowed bounty and blessing upon, with wealth and with possessions, he should cause others to benefit from them. Whether it's other wealthy people or other poor people. And he should act civilly, nicely, calmly, sensitively towards them. And do with these belongings to these people acts of kindness. We've already elaborated on this matter. How much good will come out of the result of his being beloved by the people. And when he's liked by all folks, they won't be envious of him, and they won't covet what he has, because they see he uses it not as a tool to laud his power over others, not as a power or a tool of power or status symbol to mark the distinction between him and others, but on the contrary, he uses it as a way to benefit other people, so they won't be envious of him at all. However, a person should strive to attain good qualities and character traits, even though other people will envy him and want to be like him. That, he's saying, can be done. In the realm of material possessions, no. But in the realm of good attributes, yes. Umishenizar shelo yikone en gufo kole ve'en hotolaim shotim bo. A person who is careful not to harbor envy, so his body will not rot, and worms will have no sway over his body, meaning after he dies. Tichsiv, as it says, urkav atzomois kino. What causes the decay of bones is envy. Perush, mishe yeshlo kino, a person who in his lifetime harbors envy, atzmoisav nirkovim. His bones will rot, either while he's alive or after death. What were you going to say before?
No, it's amazing.
Yeah. There's a story in the Gemara, it might be from this Gemara in Shabbos, about sages who were digging, and it was Rabbi Nachman, I believe, who sent diggers into his property to dig, and as they were digging, they heard some sound from under the ground, and they went to the person who was employing them. I don't remember if it was Rabbi Nachman or maybe it was Rabbi Nachman who the story goes on to talk about, but the employer went out into the field and actually found that there was a dead body there that he was communicating with, and it was a body which was alive underground in some way. And when the rabbi, who was the employer of these workers, said a person dies and goes to the dust, and he quoted this verse here, which says "Urkavat kina," that jealousy causes the decay of bones, but a person who's free of jealousy in his lifetime does not decay and decompose after death. So I don't know to what extent we're supposed to understand that Talmud literally, whether there was an actual physical, audible communication, or it was the Gemara's way of describing how this body that was buried had not decayed, and the Gemara is explaining why, because the person who in his lifetime was very pure and righteous, pious and holy, and therefore was not subject to decay after death. The point is just that the extent to which a person maintains purity, and specifically purity from being tainted with envy and jealousy, the person's body is going to remain intact after death. Therefore, a person should distance himself from jealousy and from covetousness. And he shouldn't desire anything which is the hand of others. And he shouldn't say, I'll desire what my friend has, and I'll give him money for it. No, don't even do that. She'im ein dato limkor in yonov as osur dazeh lahaftziro. Because if the person has no interest in selling the object, it's forbidden for the person to demand him to sell it, to buy it. Kizeh yisbayesh lahashiv panav rekam. Because the owner, who doesn't want to part from his object, will feel embarrassed or have feelings of mercy over this person and agree to sell it, not because he wants to sell it, but because the other person is pressing him. Imken ukmo ones, in which case his jealousy is forcing this other person to part from his object, even if he's paying for it. He shouldn't justify his paying for it as if he's getting it with the owner's consent. And also more so, if the person who desires it, he's, let's say, a person of power or of honor, so that the owner will feel beholden to him and be likely to submit to his requests. She'im yishar she'ela or panav lo yapilo. She'im yishal she'ela or panav lo yapiloi. She'asu lishol mechavero matana imenu yodea she'iten lo benefesh aveta. It's forbidden to ask a person to borrow something if you know he doesn't really want to give it to you. You say, you know what, I want it, and I know he doesn't want to give it. But I think this is a scenario where if I ask, he'll feel obligated to give it to me, so then I'll get it. You can't do that.
Not being gozen.
What's that?
Gozen.
It's like chomes, yes, which is like forcibly. Yes, it's like a type of stealing, really. Yeah. Mashlu mashal. This can be understood with an analogy. Chaymed v'kanai poga behem melech echad. There was a person who was desirous of other people's possessions, let's call him a coveter, and an envier. And both of them were met up by the king. The king said to them, Echad mehem yishol davar mimeni v'yinoten lo v'lechaveroi b'chiflaim. So he said, one of you can ask something of me, and I'll grant the request. And to his friend, I'll give twice as much. You familiar with the analogy?
Yeah.
So, a kanai l'rotza lishol techila. The envious person, he didn't want to be the one who would borrow. Why? Because he said, shahaya miskane im yonatem lachavero kiflaim. Because he says, if I borrow first, I might get something very valuable, but my friend is going to get something twice as valuable. So he didn't want to start. V'chomed haya misaveh shneim. And the coveter, he wanted both, what he'd get and what the other one would get. So what happened was, so the coveter, he pushed the envier to ask first. Az shol v'nakir lo ayin echas v'lechaveroi shtayim. So what he said was, I'm going to ask the king to put out one of my eyes. So now my friend will have both eyes put out. Right? So you see from here how horrible envy and being covetous really is. And that a person would rather not only not have, but subject himself and endure harm than have another person have more than him. Yeah? And if he's going to have more than me, let it be more suffering. Right? So he'd rather forgo the 100 if he's going to have 200, as long as I have minus 100 and he's got minus 200. That's how bad this attribute is. That just shows how self-destructive it is. Would it be better if I have something, even if he's got more, than that I should lose as long as he loses more? But still, these attributes would dictate that a person would rather lose as long as he loses more than he gain if the other guy's going to gain more. Irrational. All right, let's stop here then. I'll give you guys a break before the next class.